Okay, so here's another thing I saw that I thought was interesting. So Kenya talked about um how you guys have these strong feelings about Will and Jada, and then she talked about their like Thanksgiving pictures or something. I haven't seen these. I don't know. I only saw like Will Smith being on a date with some other woman or whatever. But like I said before, like I said this in my, Will has moved on video, like he's still really good friends with Jada. Like they're, even though their marriage, they may not be like together at all times, that doesn't mean that like their friendship is still very real. It seems like these two people seriously care about each other, so it makes sense that they would spend like Thanksgiving together or whatever. Not the point though. So then she went on and she made this really good point. She's like, the clout that you guys are doing, and how did she just, I don't know how, I can't put the words to it, to the way that she described these men, but there's certain men who like need the women in their lives to like up to be status symbols, because the thing that they have in their lives are their like the prizes in their lives are the women. This is like very relevant for many poor men, average men, right? Think about it. Like, if you're thinking about a car right now, like even like a brand new Toyota Corolla, right? That's like my favorite car. So I always talk about that when I use it as a reference. It's a perfectly nice standard car. It's actually, I would say it's like a standard American car, but Toyota is a Japanese company, so but it's still a very common car in America. But even if you get like the newest model, the newest decked out model, it's still like a $30,000 car. $30,000 for a car is actually not that much money. It's like a very like economic car. Not to be funny or anything, but like most of the women in America, most of the women that these average guys have access to are like Toyota Corollas. I love Toyota Corollas, don't get me wrong, but like there's like a bunch of levels above Toyota Corolla and there's a bunch of levels below Toyota Corolla. So I feel like we're dissecting like both ends of the spectrum here, right? So there's people who have way more. Like I saw that actually maybe I'll post about this. So there's like Beyonce posted a picture of this car that Jay-Z buys for her, and it is like a super luxury car. It's like a once in a lifetime $1 million Bentley or something. So that one car is $1 million, and he bought this for her like 10 years ago. And she's just like posing in front of the car, it's just like, oh, and it's like Beyonce, so it's even more spectacular, but it's also $1 million car. But then you have like, I know you guys have seen these people. There are people right now, like people that you probably work with, that you know of, your family members, who have like buckets, right? Their cars are worth like $1,000, $800 or something. It is like the shittiest bucket that you've seen, but it somehow people still manage to get to work. They get from work. They get to the grocery store. They're getting all around town in this bucket. Sometimes it blows up. They call out because it's stopped in the freeway. Like, there's always shit that's happening with it. But it is still a car. Okay, it still costs money and it still drives. This is not to be funny or anything, but this is kinda, not exactly, but kinda the way that women are. They're like cars. Like, there are people right now, like for me, for instance, I actually don't have a car right now. I've had cars in my lifetime. Okay, I've sold 2 cars. I've had cars, but right now I do not have a car. So I have a bus pass. So I'll use myself as an example. I do not own a car right now. That's real, right? So a person who has a bucket, I actually don't know if I would consider them having a very cheap car a luxury above my own, because of the amount of expense that it is. I still have like the Uber application. My bus pass gets me quite a lot of places. There's scooters everywhere in this town, so I just like scoot here and there everywhere, right? So I'm still getting around, and my bus pass costs $65 a month. If I walk, it's free. If I scooter, it's like $4, right? So I'm getting everywhere I need to go. Now, think about this. To the person, if we're going back to this like sort of relationship model sort of thing, guys who have the bootleg version of I mean, that's a really crappy way to say it, but like the bootleg version of like a woman, say, like a very low maintenance isn't the word, but maybe one that's full of problems, contributes not much, and is kind of detracting from the relationship. Because like let's just say like, well, if the woman has a job, well then I mean that doesn't count. It kind of levels the playing field. But let's say that she doesn't have a job, then she's like literally an economic expense. So she's like pulling resources from his own pocket, probably draining emotional energy, requiring labor, requiring food, and all emotional things, all this shit. And she's actually not bringing very much. She's bringing things because, like, she's a car still brings value, right? Even a bucket brings value. Like, you get the places that you need to go sometimes. But then when it breaks down on the freeway and when, like, it blows up and you have to pay all this money to get a new brake, to get an oil change, all this shit, it costs more than it's worth, right? If you're paying $2,000 for a replacement brake and the car only costs $800, it's kind of like you should just let that car go at that point. Now when you compare that to like a Corolla, especially when I think about my own Corolla. I bought my Corolla new off the lot, 0 miles, right? And it had a warranty maintenance plan that came with it. So like every time anything would break, I would just take it right back to the dealership and they would fix it for me. And I think the only thing I ended up replacing on it was like tires. Like I kept running over nails because there was all these potholes in the Bay Area and I ran over a fuck ton of nails. But besides that, like it was like nothing ever went wrong. All the parts from when I bought the car to when I sold the car were still there. I didn't have to replace anything. Everything was like fine. So all the bucket problems that all the other people with the like shitty hoopties had, I didn't have those problems. And I think that that's notable to mention. So to get back to the point that Kenya was making, men who've established themselves in terms of their own money, their own reputation, their own social status, they really do get to choose to be with whoever is interesting to them. I think actually I haven't heard that many people make analyses about this, but go look at like Jack Dorsey. Actually, he's like the most interesting like wealthy guy to like follow. Mostly because it's like he does random shit. He will be like with a different beautiful woman like every weekend. And he like does all the regular stuff. Like they'll actually just be out on dates. He'll be like at the beach, walking down walking around the city. You'll see him like a Macy's or something. You'll be like, I don't understand. Like the people, the like tech stalkers who actually follow this, they'll be like, leggy woman on Tuesday. Like I was following this for a while. It was very entertaining to watch actually. Like you'll just see it's like this guy is, and then he looks like a total caveman out of like, he just it's like he's so funny. Like Jack Dorsey might be my favorite like wealthy tech bro to follow. And also if you go see, he's like dated all across the rainbow. So you'll see him with like black women, Hispanic women, white women, Asian women, all the women, and he's just like trotting around with them, and it's quite funny. Like he's very entertaining. Anyway, but the point is, it's when people are talking about things like pretty privilege and types and typecasting and all that stuff, I'm not saying it doesn't play a part, but what I am saying is like you don't know what these guys like. And rich guys they don't go by your standards. They go by their own. Actually, I think Drake and all of the Drake albums and all the things that Drake has been doing and saying is kind of like showcasing this. Like, he isn't dating like the normal, typical, average guy because he doesn't have to, because he's actually that rich now to where, like, I mean, he's going to date who he wants to date. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that and give some time to that. Other things happening in the real world. Okay.